The Sgraffito technique means that you're going to be painting on a color and then scratching through the color to reveal the color of the clay as the line. In order to do this, we have black underglaze. So you should have something in your toolkit that says velvet underglaze. It's called this because it usually goes underneath a glaze which gets fired on, and the glaze is a clear coat. So these aren't going to get fired, but we're going to use Mod Podge at the end to create that clear coat. So underglaze isn't a paint and it's not a glaze. What it actually is sort of like a liquid clay, like a slip, with a pigment added to it, so that when it gets fired, the pigment adheres to the clay body. You will notice as you paint, it does not behave like a paint. It goes on thin and it has streaks. Be careful though. I always see students wanting to glob the paint on and make it thick, but all it's going to do is chip and flake off if you do this. So if you see any spots that look thick, what you actually want to do is you want to wipe that glaze off and either put it back in the container, or you can spread it out so that you get that even coating. Expect it to be streaky. That is normal. So just to give you a closer look, if you zoom in on this piece, you're going to see that you can see the brush strokes, you can see through to the white of the clay body. That's going to get resolved as you add your second and third coat. Make sure that you let it dry completely before you add the second coat. You can check if it's dry. If you kind of like turn it around in the light and there's no shine to it and it looks matte, then you're ready to add your second coat. You will need to repeat this process on the front and the back 3 times. Generally speaking, 3 coats will give you good, flat, even coverage with no streaks. Once you have painted the front and the back, with 3 coats each, being very, very patient to allow each coat to dry in between applications, then you're ready to start your Sgraffito. Here you're going to see I'm using the paperclip, the pin tool side of the paperclip, to start my design. I was surprised when I started to do this how little pressure I needed to add to make a mark, so go easy. So the best practice for this is to start with a really light outline of everything before you start going back and filling everything in. I tried several different tools to do this Sgraffito. There's no right or wrong answer with which tool to use. You just need something that's going to scratch the surface through the black to create a white line. So some things that I tried, and you may want to as well, is that here I'm using the paper clip. I tried a sharpened pencil. I tried a mechanical pencil. The thing that I found that I liked the most in the end was that tool just to the right there. I actually duct taped the paper clip to the end of a pencil, and it did what I was doing here, but I just felt like I had a better grip on the tool and I came up with more control while I was drawing. Once I established a very light line and knew where everything should go, then I started filling my drawing in with highlights and shadows. One thing I did that helped a lot is I kept that paintbrush handy to brush away any crumbs that came up when I was doing my drawing. The thing is your paintbrush has to be totally dry from its last use. If there's any moisture in the bristles, you're just going to smear the drawing. Another thing to keep in mind, because drawing can be very intimidating if you're afraid to make mistakes, is that if you do make a mistake, all you need to do is when you're finished, take some of the underglaze and paint the areas that you weren't happy with, and then you can let that dry and go back and scratch through it again. Once I had completed the front side, I flipped it to the back and I did the exact same process, starting with a light line and then going back and filling things in. In my designs, I always like to figure out a clever way to add my signature. So for this one, I used the honeycomb to create a pattern and I put my signature right in the center honeycomb. When you finish your design, let your piece dry completely. You can always tell if it's dry if it doesn't feel cold. If it feels room temperature, you are ready to paint with your Mod Podge. All you need is one even coating of Mod Podge. The Mod Podge is white, so when it goes on, it might look milky, but it will dry clear, so don't worry about that. After you paint the front side, let the Mod Podge dry completely so it's not even tacky or sticky, and then you can flip it over and paint the back side. And of course, don't forget, clean your brush before you're done.